Welcome back to Very Special Episodes, the series where we revisit the moments when our favorite TV shows got unexpectedly real. Whether it was sitcoms getting serious or dramas taking things to the next emotional level, these episodes didn't just entertain. They made us think, feel, and sometimes even cry. In Part 14, we're covering another round of powerful, challenging, and unforgettable episodes. From Buffy the Vampire Slayer's devastating take on loss, to Punky Brewster dealing with fear in the face of real-world danger, and city guys tackling predatory behavior head-on, this installment covers everything from grief, addiction, trauma, and identity. These were the moments that stuck with us long after the credits rolled. Let's run it back.
Maybe the world is blind, or just a little unkind.
Punky Brewster, Urban Fear. This episode of Punky Brewster takes a dark turn when news breaks that a serial killer, the North Side Stalker, is terrorizing the city. While Henry and Betty try to shield Punky and Cherry from the disturbing news, the girls already know what's going on, and Punky becomes consumed with fear, especially for Henry's safety. Her anxiety spirals as she starts drawing violent images in class and tries to keep Henry from going to work at night, terrified that he'll be the next victim. Henry eventually sits Punky down and offers words of comfort and realism. He validates her fear but stresses the importance of not letting it take over her life. He assures her that being cautious is smart, but living in constant fear isn't healthy. It's a rare and honest conversation in a family show, confronting the difficult truth that sometimes the world can be scary. But love, awareness, and support are what help us move forward. Dinosaurs, Changing Nature. In one of the boldest and most haunting finales in sitcom history, Dinosaurs ends not with a happy lesson, but with the extinction of its characters. The story begins with the mysterious disappearance of the bunch beetles, which throws off Pangea's ecosystem. Charlene discovers that the beetle swamp was destroyed by a We Say So factory, and the species is now extinct. This sets off a domino effect of bad decisions, as Earl and the company attempt to fix the environment by poisoning plants and triggering volcanic eruptions to bring rain. Instead, their actions trigger a volcanic winter, covering the world in snow and blocking out the sun. The final scenes are chilling, as Earl sits with his family, apologizing for trusting in progress over nature. The message is clear and devastating. Our actions have consequences, and ignoring environmental warnings can lead to irreversible destruction. For a show starring puppet dinosaurs, it's one of the most powerful environmental parables ever aired.
Thank you for being afraid. Thank you for being afraid.
The Golden Palace. Camptown races aren't nearly as much fun as they used to be. When Blanche proudly displays a Confederate flag in preparation for a Southern Heritage group's arrival at the hotel, it causes immediate tension with Roland. To Blanche, the flag symbolizes family and tradition, but Roland sees it as a painful reminder of racism and hate. Their argument forces both of them, and the audience, to confront the complexities of history and how symbols can mean very different things depending on perspective. As the conversation deepens, Blanche begins to re-examine her past and acknowledge the painful realities it's tied to. Her realization that cherished memories are connected to a legacy of oppression is an emotional turning point. The episode doesn't wrap things up neatly, but it sparks an honest and necessary dialogue. For a sitcom in the early 90s, The Golden Palace tackled racism with a surprisingly nuanced and timely approach. The Cosby Show, Theo in the Joint. This episode begins with a shock. Claire finds a marijuana joint in Theo's schoolbook and immediately suspects the worst. Although Theo denies ownership, Cliff and Claire confront him with disappointment and concern. What follows is a story about trust, responsibility, and the fear of being judged unfairly. Theo, determined to clear his name, launches his own investigation to discover who planted the joint in his belongings. Eventually, Theo finds the real culprit, a fellow student, and demands that he confess to Cliff. The episode reinforces the importance of honesty and self-advocacy, showing how easily misunderstandings can damage trust even within loving families. By standing up for himself and insisting on the truth, Theo restores his parents' faith in him and gives viewers a positive model for handling false accusations. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The Body. The Body is one of the most raw and realistic portrayals of grief ever seen on television. The episode follows Buffy discovering her mother Joyce dead on the couch from a brain aneurysm. There are no background scores or cutaways to fantasy. It's quiet, brutal, and real. Buffy goes through the motions of calling 911, trying CPR, and eventually accepting that her mother is gone. Each character responds to the news in their own way. Willow spirals over what to wear, Xander gets angry and puts his fist through a wall, and Anya delivers a heartbreaking monologue about not understanding death. What sets this episode apart is its refusal to offer comfort. There are no monsters to slay, no magical resurrection, just pain, confusion, and the question of how to move forward. When Dawn asks, "Where did she go?" the camera cuts before she touches her mother's body. It's haunting, powerful, and considered one of the most important episodes in television history for how it tackled death and grief head-on.
When this boy meets world.
Boy Meets World, My Baby Valentine and Resurrection. What starts as a light Valentine's Day episode quickly turns serious when Amy Matthews unexpectedly goes into labor and gives birth prematurely. Corey is so focused on his ruined romantic plans with Topanga that he doesn't realize the severity of the situation until the baby is rushed to the NICU. As his parents deal with the fear of losing their newborn, Corey begins to see that life is bigger than his own relationship troubles. In the follow-up episode, Resurrection, Corey and Topanga's relationship faces strain as the baby's fate hangs in the balance. While Amy and Alan hold tight to hope, Corey struggles to accept the possibility of loss, and Topanga reminds him that not everything can be fixed with a smile or a comforting word. The emotional turning point comes when Sean delivers a moving speech to baby Joshua, helping Corey and Topanga reconnect. It's a powerful story about love, family, and finding strength in moments of fear. City Guys, Raise the Roofies. In a surprisingly heavy episode of the teen sitcom City Guys, Cassidy begins dating an older college student named Trent, who turns out to be dangerously predatory. Trent plans to drug Cassidy at a frat party, but his plan is accidentally thwarted when her friend Dawn drinks the spike punch instead. While Dawn is taken to the health center, Trent tries again to drug Cassidy in private, only for Chris to intervene just in time after overhearing frat boys talking. The episode doesn't shy away from the seriousness of the issue. It handles topics like consent, assault, and peer pressure with unusual weight for a teen series. The cast plays the situation with sincerity, and the writers deliver a strong message about recognizing red flags and supporting victims. In a time when these subjects were rarely covered on shows aimed at teens, this episode stood out for its bravery and urgency.
I got in one little fight and my mom got scared and said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel-Air."
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Bullets Over Bel-Air. A camping trip turns into a nightmare when Will and Carlton are held at gunpoint during an ATM visit. When the gunman panics, Will pushes Carlton out of harm's way and is shot. The scene is tense and terrifying, and the aftermath shows a family grappling with the trauma. While Will survives, the experience shakes everyone, especially Carlton, who begins to question everything he thought he knew about justice and safety. The emotional core of the episode comes when Carlton, overwhelmed by fear and anger, reveals to Will that he bought a gun. Will pleads with him to hand it over, reminding him that violence isn't the answer. The moment Carlton leaves the gun on Will's bed and Will sees it's loaded is one of the most haunting in the series. The Fresh Prince often balanced comedy and real-life issues, but this episode showed just how raw and powerful it could be.
What will we do, baby, without us?
Family Ties, Give Uncle Arthur a Kiss. This episode of Family Ties deals with a rarely discussed subject in 80s sitcoms: sexual harassment from a trusted adult. Arthur, a longtime family friend and Steven's colleague, crosses the line by making unwanted advances toward Mallory. At first, his behavior is subtle, but it quickly escalates to a non-consensual kiss that leaves Mallory shaken. What makes this episode so powerful is its handling of accountability. Mallory confides in her family, and they immediately take her side, confronting Arthur directly. There's no sweeping the situation under the rug, and Arthur is forced to face the consequences. He promises to seek professional help, but the damage is done. It's a rare and courageous episode that addresses betrayal, boundaries, and the importance of speaking up. The Carmichael Show, Gender. In this standout episode, Jared mentors a promising young basketball player, Jordan, who initially comes out as gay, but later reveals he is actually transgender. Jared is blindsided and struggles to process the revelation. The show doesn't shy away from showing his confusion, nor that of his family, who try to understand what being transgender means while clumsily asking questions. What makes this episode remarkable is its refusal to offer tidy resolution. Jared admits that he doesn't fully understand, but he promises to support Jordan anyway. It's an honest depiction of someone working through their own biases while choosing love and acceptance over fear. The episode is full of laughs, but never at Jordan's expense. It treats him with empathy and humanity, setting a high bar for how sitcoms can handle trans representation. And that wraps up part 14 of very special episodes. These shows didn't just break format, they broke ground. They pushed the limits of what could be discussed on television, especially in family or teen-friendly time slots. Whether it was helping kids process fear, confronting violence, or unpacking issues like race, gender, or identity, these episodes reminded us that TV could be more than entertainment. It could be a mirror of real life. Before we wrap up, I want to give a huge shout out to our Throwback Influencer tier members, Peace by Chaos, Thicula, iCritic, Mary Jarrell, and Jeremy Bowen. Your support means the world, and I truly appreciate you being part of the Let's Run It Back community. A massive thank you to all the other members as well. Your support helps keep the nostalgia alive and lets me keep making these videos. As a reminder, members get access to videos at least one day early, so if you want to see content before anyone else, consider joining. And if you want another way to support the channel, you can check out the merch store, grab some nostalgic gear, and rep Let's Run It Back in style. Every bit of support helps, and I couldn't do this without y'all. Let me know in the comments which of these episodes stood out most to you, or if there's a very special episode you think deserves to be featured in a future part. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you haven't already. And as always, keep the nostalgia alive. See you next time.